So this webinar training is a part of a partnership between the SBA Columbus District Office and Ohio University PTAC. We are able to work in collaboration with each other. We've been doing that for several years, but we offer trainings on a monthly basis that focus on government contracting. So this month we are focusing on capability statements. It is a very important marketing piece that small business can use when marketing themselves to government agencies. It essentially translates what a business does into government speak, so that when your business is presenting themselves to government agencies, it's just that much easier for that government agency to understand what it is that your company specializes in, who to contact, past performance. So we're really going to do a deep dive into that today. And this training will become available on the Ohio University PTAC website, as well as the Ohio Business Matchmaker website. So if you have not heard, the Ohio Business Matchmaker is going to be in person on July 13th and 14th of 2022 at the Nutter Center in Dayton. So we're very, very excited to have it back in person. And hopefully all of you are too, because this is a very unique networking and training event that you as a small business, if you are working on business development and government contracting, this is a way for you to meet with multiple federal, state, and local agencies under one roof in one day. So we're excited to have that back. But today's format's a little bit different than some of the prior trainings that we've done, in that we are going to start the training with Jane Stewart from OU PTAC in Cleveland. She is going to give a presentation on capability statements. And following her presentation, we are going to have a government panel of small business professionals, and that will be able to provide their best practices on what they look for in capability statements. And that is going to be moderated by my colleague, Shonda Harris. So without further ado, I am going to turn this over to Jane Stewart, who is with the OU PTAC in Cleveland. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Jill. Let me get my presentation up here real quick. Okay, do you see that?
Yes, but it's not on slides. It's not on a slideshow.
Okay.
There you go. Yep, looks good.
All right, well, good morning, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the earlier entertainment, if you could call it that. Today, I'm going to be talking about capability statements and how to create a really good capability statement for your company. So first of all, what is a capability statement? A capability statement is a one-page document that highlights your company's area of expertise. It tells potential customers who you are, what you do, how you do it, why you're awesome, and why I should do business with you.
I'm sorry, Jane, there's one thing that I forgot to mention. If you do have questions, you can write them into the chat, and we will be monitoring them, and I will ask them at a time where I'm not interrupting Jane like I am now. All right, thank you.
Jill, you can interrupt me anytime, it's fine. So what information should be included in a capability statement? There are four main topics: your core competency, past performance, corporate data, and contact information. And we're going to go into more detail on each one of these topics. So why should you bother putting the time and effort into making or into creating a capability statement? Well, the biggest reason is marketing. It can be one of the very important tools in your marketing toolbox. It essentially serves as a resume for your business. Oftentimes, it'll be requested by a government agency or a prime contractor at an initial meeting. It can be part of a bid or proposal response. More often, it will be required in a sources sought notice. Those are the notices that a government agency will put out in order to determine if a contract can be set aside for a particular socioeconomic category. You want to have your capability statement ready to go as soon as you find those notices. And it can set you apart from the competition. It shows that you have really put a lot of time and effort into responding to the notice. Okay, the basics. A capability statement really does require serious attention. It can be your first impression with a government buyer or a prime contractor. Some of the biggest mistakes that I see regularly: poor language skills, grammar, spelling, it really counts. Past performance that omits key details. The past performance section, it doesn't have to be big and detailed, but it should have the key elements of the company or agency, the time period, contract numbers, what was the dollar value, information like that. Too many core competencies. Nobody can do everything. Nobody can provide every NAICS code out there. You want to focus on what it is that your company does absolutely the best. Generic differentiators. We're going to go more into that. You don't want to create a boring document. You want it to be interesting visually as well as the content. I think we have very, very short attention spans anymore. And if you don't capture the reader's attention in the first 45 seconds or so, they may not read the whole document, and you could lose a potential sale. Okay, format. The format, you want it to be organized and not all over the place. You want your little acorns to all be lined up nice and neat for an easy to read document. Brevity is key. Your capability statement should be a one-page document. It's okay to have a bigger document if it is requested, but I think initially it really is best to keep it down to just one page. You want to use bullet points to make it easier to read. Use page or section dividers. You want to keep it clean and simple.
Jane, we have a past performance question.
Sure.
Is past performance in reference to previous government contracts your company completed?
Yes, but it can also include commercial work. It's not just government past performance. What the reader is generally looking for in past performance is that you have the history, the capability of doing what you say you can do. Okay, makes sense? Okay, so you want your capability statement to be visually interesting, not just black and white groups of text. You want to make sure that you use graphics and color that represent your logo. but don't get crazy. I mean, we don't want a rainbow here. But it's important to make it visually interesting. When you're going to meet with people in person, I highly recommend that you print it on good paper rather than, recycled what, the school uses. And again, make it easy to read. You also want to have it saved as a PDF file for email marketing. Okay. So let's get into the content. Core competency. You want to have a short introductory statement that identifies what your company does best. You want to include the features of your company that set you apart from the rest of the pack. Identify only what you can deliver with exceptional results. Again, far too often I see companies that claim they can be your one and only supplier of everything that you need. Well, that's not very realistic, and that is not very appealing to a buyer. You may want to create several different capability statements that contain audience-specific information. For example, let's say you have 2 or 3 branches of your company, and one branch might be specific to office supplies, and then you expand it into PPE needs. Well, if you're responding to a request for quote or something that is only requesting information on your PPE, personal protective equipment, then you want to have a capability statement that will just address what that particular agency is looking for. Okay, past performance. You want to list previous as well as current customers. If you can keep that list within the last 2 or 3 years, that would be best. And again, it doesn't have to be just government customers. It can be commercial also. You want to provide the contact information, but make sure that contact is still there. And include a very brief description of the work that was included. And don't forget the time frame and dollar value. And you want to prioritize your past performance list. I always suggest starting off with the biggest and the best, and then work down from there.
Here's a good question. How brief is brief? Or how brief is very brief?
I would say if you can limit it to 2 or 3 lines, that's probably best. It depends on how much room you have also. Okay, where was I? Past performance list. Oh, I remember. And if you are responding to a specific request for information, you want to include the past performance that is only relevant to that particular situation. Okay. Again, audience-specific information. You want to show that particular agency the benefit of your company, how you can solve their need or their problem. Prioritize. I guess I already covered these. If you're responding to a government contract and you've had government past performance, you want to lead with that. If it's federal, state, or local that you're responding to, then you might want to lead with that. And again, be brief. It's not a dissertation. You want people to read the information and want more. That way, hopefully they will reach out to you to get the rest of the story. Okay, differentiators. The differentiators are what sets you apart from the pack. How is your company so much better than the rest of them that are out there? There are a lot of IT companies and you have to stand out from the rest of them. Differentiators can include some unique feature or benefit of the product or service that you offer. Does your product last longer? Does it incorporate some amazing new technology where your batteries will last, for 10 years versus the competition that only lasts, 10 days? It might be important to identify your production capacity if you're a manufacturer. If the agency or prime contractor buys a lot of what you have to offer, then they might want to know that you can produce 1,000 units per week or whatever it may be. Quality and assurance program. That is really big in the government world. Are you ISO certified or any of the other quality programs? Have you ever received any awards or accolades from your previous customers? That can be an important attention getter. Do you have any specific industry certifications? Like I know for welding, for example, there are a gajillion different welding certifications. Do your employees have those various certifications? Is your employee training ongoing to keep everything up to date and current? Those things can matter. Is green important in your industry? Do you recycle? All that stuff can really matter. Your geographic coverage. Do you cover just a particular state or nationwide or worldwide? Oh, and another thing that is becoming very, very important is CMMC. Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, especially with the Department of Defense. It is a certification that you go through to make sure that your IT system is safe and cannot be compromised. And that's a whole nother webinar. If you want more information about CMMC, please don't hesitate to contact your local PTAC. But if you are in the process of obtaining CMMC, you would want to include that on your capability statement. Okay, again, audience-specific needs. Focus on what that particular buyer needs. If they're asking for purple pens, you don't want to be talking about how good you are making, I don't know, Nerf guns or whatever. If you're aware of upcoming contracts, I think it's a good idea to mention that in either the capability statement or in an introductory email. If you're emailing a buyer, let them know that you have done your research on the procurement forecasts. And so if you're reaching out to the buyer, Tell them, I see that you have a contract coming up next year. I wanted to introduce my company. We have a lot of experience in this area. And then attach your capability statement for their review. Incorporate any relevant metrics and offer a solution. You're not just selling an item or a service. Oftentimes the buyer wants the complete solution. So identify how you can start from A and end up at Z, and how fabulous your entire solution for that project would be. Okay, some things that differentiators are not. Socioeconomic certifications are not a differentiator. Those are icing on the cake. If you're a veteran, a woman, 8A, HubZone, whatever it might be, the important, not that they're not important, they are, but what is really important is that you are a responsible, responsive company. You want to stay away from generic statements, things like, we're the best out there. You never want your capability statement to just be static. It should be updated on a regular basis and make sure all the information is correct. If you change phone numbers or emails, update those. Remember, one type does not fit all. You should have one general capability statement, but you should also have specific statements that address different situations. You want to avoid things like, we have quality people, quality services. Well, everybody does. You want to say why you're a quality company. This one always kind of amused me. A company that has been in business for 5 years, I've seen, we have 100 years of experience. Well, no, not if you've only been in business for 5 years. The cumulative experience of the key employees is kind of irrelevant. So I would not use statements like that. Solutions provider. Well, how? These are not differentiators. Differentiators are the things that set you apart, not blanket statements that don't mean anything, that don't have any teeth in it. Be specific. Okay, some things that you don't want to use as differentiators. Things, boasting type of statement. Our plan is perfect, beautiful, cutting edge. Well, okay, why? We're focused, dedicated, trustworthy. I mean, all of these things, they're just vague and they don't really say anything about your company. Why are you an awesome company? It's because we're ISO certified. Our company has been in business for 25 years. We have past performance with all these different agencies. Those are specific. Okay, so company contact or company data. I always like to see the company data in its own little section. If you're using your capability statement to a federal or prime, then a federal agency or a prime contractor, you want to make sure that you include your UEI, your unique entity identifier. the UEI has replaced the DUNS number. And you want to include your cage code. You want to identify the NAICS codes and the product service codes and federal supply codes that represent your company. And again, make sure you don't list, 500 of them. Identify the ones that best describe your particular company. Do you have a GSA schedule? You want to make sure that you have your GSA contract number and logo on your capability statement. Do you have any other BPAs or any other, a BPA is a blanket purchase contract, or any other GWACs, government-wide acquisition contracts. Now, this is where you can identify the socioeconomic categories that your company has. Are you a small business, veteran-owned, service-disabled veteran-owned, etc.? Is the number of employees that your or your capacity relevant? You want to include that. Do you accept credit cards? That is really important. The micro purchase threshold is $10,000, and a buyer doesn't have to put out for competition or post anywhere if they're using a credit card to make a micro purchase. One thing that I always suggest is that you reach out to the small business office of a particular agency that you work with. And well, I have two sons in the Navy, and I always try to visit the small business office of the base that they're at. And they always tell me the same thing. Send me your capability statement, and then they will keep them on file. And when somebody is looking for a company to purchase a small purchase, oftentimes they will go to the small business office to see what kind of companies they might have on file. So make sure that you're reaching out to those agencies and getting them your information. Don't forget contact information. You don't want just a generic email or an 800 number. Give people a specific point of contact. Have, for more information, contact Sharon Hopkins at my company, blah, blah, blah. People don't like just calling a general number and then trying, to convey who they want to talk to, because you never know who's answering the phone. So always include a specific point of contact and their direct contact information. So some websites that can be very helpful for the NAICS code websites. I like the census.gov website. You can search by keywords and locate all the codes that are relevant. If your target is a state government, then you want to identify the UN SPSC codes. They're the NAICS codes for state and international use. And here's the website for that. If you don't already have a cage code and your UEI, then you need to go to sam.gov. Sam.gov is where you can get registered and receive your cage code. And
Jane, we have a question.
okay.
Would having a recent testimonial, hang on a second. Would having a recent testimonial and or link to your testimonials page be a good idea?
I think so.
I think,
yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
I think, yeah, and then another question.
Mhm.
For DUNS or UEI, is it the same number or just updated terminology?
No, they're completely different numbers. The UEI is a really long number. And if you're already registered in SAM and you haven't looked at your information recently, you can go to the SAM website, log into your information, and you'll see that you've already been assigned a UEI. It was, I can't remember the date. It was earlier this month that they made the transition. Now, you may need a DUNS number for other purposes in government contracting or in the government world. But generally for SAM and everything, it's the UEI now. Okay. Let's see. So once you have created this amazing capability statement, what are you going to do with it? Well, email marketing. I touched briefly on that earlier. You want to create a brief introductory email and attach your capability statement. So for example, if you wanted to reach out to Eunice at NASA Glenn, you would send her an email. Hi, Eunice. My name is Jane Stewart, and I wanted to introduce my company to you. Attached for your review is my capability statement. Obviously, you'd want a little more detail than that, but that's the general. You want to make sure that you never send out mass emails. The government filters can be pretty tight, so mass emails are often filtered out. Always try to have a specific person that you're emailing to. You don't want generic Dear Contracting Professional. You want Dear Eunice. Make sure when you're emailing, you do have it put into a PDF format. That is more likely to go through than a Word document. Let's see. Oh, you can go to the agency's website and you can get a lot of information. So for example, again, NASA Glenn. NASA Glenn has their own vendor registration. So you want to make sure before you reach out to Eunice that you have already registered in their system. So you can say, I've registered in your system. I'd like to discuss what my next step should be. You can Google NASA Glenn and add small business office or US Navy small business. It's really easy to locate those small business offices. You want to look, just make sure that you are at a .gov or a .mil website. You don't want to end up at a commercial site that is ultimately going to want to charge you money. Look for vendor days. Now that the world is opening back up again, events are happening again. A couple weeks ago was the DLA Expo. That was wonderful. It's a good opportunity to meet the buyers, meet the small business folks. And of course, look for matchmaker events like the Ohio Matchmaker coming up in July. Some markets I have seen, you're missing the individual contact person on your capability statement. I have been to so many events over my 22 years with PTAC. Folks do not want to be given big flashy folders and catalogs and slide decks. I have seen too much of that end up right in the trash. a one-page capability statement on good paper with your business card, they're much, much more likely to take that back to the office than all that other stuff. You can have all of the catalogs and glossy sheets available, but always ask before you give them. No clear understanding of the agency's mission or needs. One thing I find so frustrating is sitting down with a potential contractor and having them say, "So, what does NASA Glenn buy?" That is not going to make a good first impression. You need to do your homework before you have the opportunity to meet or talk with a buyer. Never share stories of woe. I mean, life is tough for all of us. They don't want to hear about your supply chain issues or, your mother's gallbladder surgery. Or if I don't get a contract, I'm going to have to close my business. No, those aren't things that you want to bring up at all. A common mistake is expecting instant results. It's not going to happen overnight. You have to be persistent. You have to have a plan, and you have to have patience. 12 to 18 months is kind of an average, but I've seen companies get their first government contract in a few months. And then I've seen they didn't get a contract for maybe 5 years or so, or maybe never get a contract. I mean, there are just no hard and fast rules, but you can't expect instant results. Don't market to everyone. Pick a agency that buys what you have to offer. Start with them and then expand. So in conclusion, you want to identify your audience and plan accordingly. Spell check. Remember, spelling does count, as does grammar. Do your homework and be prepared. Being prepared can mean many things. It can mean having your capability statement ready to send out in an email or hand to a person that you're meeting with. Contact your local PTAC for help and templates. PTAC is funded by the Department of Defense, and our sole purpose in life is to help companies with their government contracting efforts at no cost. We are prepaid with your tax dollars. PTACs are all over the country, and I will put our websites in the chat feature so you can locate the PTAC that is closest to you. PTAC can help with all areas of government contracting. Excuse me. We can help with SAM registration and any of the business certifications that might apply to you. We have a daily bid matching program where we can put together keywords that represent what you have to offer, and then you'll receive a daily email notification of those opportunities. We can also then help you with your bidding or proposal development process. We have market research tools where we can identify what agencies have purchased what you have to offer, what they've purchased in the past, who your competition is, and what kind of pricing they're buying at. Essentially, if it has to do with government contracting, PTAC is here to help. And don't forget, we have some really nice templates for capability statements. they're documents that have instructions on what belongs in all the different areas, and then you just fill it in. Then we can review and offer suggestions on how to improve it.
Jane, we have a UNSPSC question.
Yes.
I looked up the codes for my service on the unspsc.org site and found the numbers. Do I need to become a subscriber?
No.
And Sharon,
No,
okay, it looks like Sharon Hopkins answered, no, you don't need to become a subscriber. Okay.
Yeah. Where government contracting is involved, there are very, very, very few things that you should have to pay for. Before you get your credit card out, why don't you give your PTAC or your SBA contact a phone call and run it by them before you spend money. So here is my contact information, and the ptac.ohio.edu website, where you can go and locate the PTAC office that is closest to you in Ohio. And I'll put our national website in the chat feature. So that is what I have.
Jane,
Yes.
this is Shonda. I have a quick question. It didn't dawn upon me until you were presenting. And I know with several presentations, sometimes they have included these in the past, but did you have I know we have the templates, but do you have a couple of examples to kind of show, to kind of put up before we transition, or no, were you planning to do that? Or some capability statements?
Yes, I do. Give me a second here.
Okay. Because that may be a good to kind of close out so everybody can see.
Oh, definitely.
All of the sections, which I think is really great.
Yes. Oh, I accidentally closed it. Give me a second. So, okay, I guess I got to share, huh? Here,
that would help.
Let's see. I'm going to share my screen. This is one of the templates that we have. So up here, you can put your logo or other information, your differentiators, your core competencies, past performance, company, all of your company data. And you can just, it's a Word document that you can type into and put in all the relevant information. And just email. You can email me and I'd be happy to email you the template. So here's an example, and I've removed the company information, so it's more generic. But here's a company that they're a manufacturer, and their logo and contact information was all up here. They've listed their core competencies. They're an ISO certified metal stamping company located in, blah, blah, blah. They've identified what their core competencies are. Metal stamping. They have 17 punch presses and what the capabilities are. Over here is, they included their start date. They're a small business, ISO, DUNS number. Well, now it's the UEI. Their cage code, their NAICS codes, Let me find another one. Now, these are pretty, like this one is pretty standard, but you know, you want it to represent your company. It's okay if it doesn't look like everybody else's. You want it to look like your company. Here's one more. Now, this company included some colors, and actually this was a capability statement I put together for a company to utilize, because what they sent me was not the best. So, and you always want to identify it as capability statement. And when you're saving it to a PDF, I always suggest that you name it company name, capability statement. So that's what I have. Are there any other questions? Okay. So,
Sorry, Jane. Let's see. There's a couple of things that came through.
okay.
If we would like someone to evaluate and provide feedback on our capability statements, who could we contact?
Well, I would encourage you to go to ohio.ptac.edu and locate your local PTAC office and ask them to review it for you. It's part of what all of us do. So reach out, and if you can't get a hold of your local office, feel free to email me or my colleague, Sharon Hopkins. Actually, she's my boss. I'm located up in the Northeast Ohio area, and Sharon Hopkins is located in Athens.
And I just wanted to add, in addition to meeting with your local PTAC, as a part of the Ohio Business Matchmaker, we are going to offer what we call mock matchmakers over the next couple of months, actually starting in May. And so we'll have 2 in May and 2 in June, where you can sign up to have your capability statement reviewed by someone from PTAC, from a federal representative, from an SBA representative, and from a state representative. So we are in the final stages of getting those planned. So you have not seen a registration or flyer associated with it, but it's coming in the very near future.
And Jane, I would like to say, if you're in Ohio looking for an Ohio PTAC, I put the website in the chat, but it's also ptac.ohio.edu. And I just wanted to clarify that, Jane, because you kind of said it backwards. So
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Sharon.
just wanted the recording to be correct.
Absolutely. One thing I forgot to mention, be very careful about putting agency logos on your capability statement. Some agencies have a problem with that. So don't utilize graphics that you're not allowed to. Okay. I think that was the only thing I forgot to say.
Great, great information, Jane. Thank you so much.
Thank
I think, are those all the questions, Jill, on the chat?
That's all I see right now. Yes.
Okay.
Hi,
All right.
I had a question that I think got missed in the chat,
Oh,
or I
sorry
just
about
missed
that.
the answer. That's okay.
Go ahead.
Jane mentioned earlier about the UEI number should replace the DUNS number. Is that in regards to terminology, or is it a completely different set of numbers now?
No, it is a completely different set of numbers. The SAM is no longer utilizing DUNS. It has been replaced by the UEI. It's a really long alphanumeric code number now. So it's not just terminology, it's a completely different system.
Okay, thank you for that.
And it just happened at the beginning of April. I mean, it's
Yeah.
still brand new.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, because
Yeah,
I
it's
just did
very
this in
new.
January. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for
And
that.
if you already have an active SAM account or registration, you were automatically assigned a UEI. So if you look at your SAM, you'll see it.
Okay, thank you. And one other question, you mentioned the logos of other businesses. What if you, obviously, I guess, if you asked for permission before, like to put it on any marketing material, then you're okay? Or would you still shy away from it?
No. If you have permission, I would utilize it. For
Okay,
example, if you're a GSA schedule holder, part of that whole process is you do have the ability to utilize the GSA logo on your marketing material. I really encourage to put that on. I think a lot of times a buyer is scanning through the capability statement, looking for specific information to jump out at them. So that's why I like to have the NAICS codes and the cage code and everything kind of separated in its own little compartment. That way it's easy to find and the buyer could look at those NAICS codes and right there's your cage code, so they know what you're offering and they know that you're procurement ready. Okay,
thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Great questions. Thank you so much again, Jane. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shonda Harris, and I'm a business opportunity specialist. I work alongside with Jill at the Columbus District Office of the Small Business Administration. Always a great pleasure to work with PTAC on these trainings and to be able to assist you as small businesses as you're looking to do business with government entities. And this second portion of the training is going to be served kind of as a dual purpose. The panel, just as Jane kind of gave an overview of kind of how to create or put together your capability statement. Now what we want to do is hear from a panel of federal government small business specialists. One of them used to be, now they're a PTAC counselor, but kind of hear from them as to what they look for when small businesses submit their capability statements, when they're looking to bid on upcoming procurement or upcoming contract. And then also the second portion of the panel, we do want to ask our small business professionals for best practices that they can pass along, kind of tips and tools to assist you with. Jill spoke about we're having our upcoming Ohio Business Matchmaker, and some of you may be familiar with that. If you're not, it is our signature event that we put on at the district with other partners, of course, with PTAC, the state of Ohio, Department of Ohio Department Services Agency, or the Ohio Department of Development, they switch back. So with that event, it essentially gives you an opportunity to interact with government agencies and pitch your capability statement to federal, state, and local government agencies and government buyers. So with that said, we do have a panel today of some wonderful small business professionals. We have Dave, and I'm gonna just say their names and who they're with, and then kind of turn it over to them to allow them to kind of give a little background of what they currently do, what they did in the past. And then we'll go ahead, and I have some questions. Again, if you do have questions, go ahead and type them in the chat, and then we can, Jill and those that are monitoring it can ask. So our panel today, we do have Dave Loffman, who is with DLA Land and Maritime. You may also know as DLA Land and Maritime as DSCC here in Columbus. We have Eunice Adams Sip with NASA Glenn up in Cleveland. And we also have Tony Griffin, who is an OU PTAC counselor, but prior to working with the PTAC, Tony is a retired, he used to work with the small business office at DLA as well. So if Dave, I see Dave's camera's off, Eunice camera is on, Dave's camera is on. Tony, I don't see. Tony, if you can turn on your camera. And then we will go ahead and get started. There we go. So we'll go ahead, we'll just go ahead in that order. Dave, if you want to go ahead and just kind of introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what you do now, kind of what you did prior leading up to that, and then we'll turn it over to Eunice and then to Tony, and then I'll kick it off with a question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Dave Loftman. I'm a business opportunity specialist at the Defense Logistics Agency, Land and Maritime in Columbus, Ohio. And basically kind of what I do now for the last year is I will take these capability studies and help companies identify DIBS opportunities that meet their capabilities to kind of keep you guys within your realm of, within your capabilities to not overload you, because it does us no good to have a business start bidding on contracts and not be profitable or not be able to deliver parts. So we want you to succeed so we can succeed. I've been with DLA 12 years. The first 6 I spent in our mechanical test lab. So I have a really strong quality background. The last 6, prior to coming to small business office, I was in our counterfeit materials group as a test coordinator, trying to identify fraudulent items that were supplied to the government. Prior to my government life, I worked for a small business, family owned, primarily exhaust manufacturer for Honda. But so I have a lot of different kinds of equipment, manufacturing background, processes and quality inspections. And really, I'm always available to help a small business with stuff like what's been covered today with your capability studies and such. Did you want me to go into some examples, Shonda, or wait?
We'll go ahead and allow the other panelists to everybody to introduce themselves, and then I'll go ahead with the question, and then you can kind of go, if that's okay.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Eunice?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eunice Adams-Sipp, and I am the Small Business Specialist at the NASA Glenn Research Center. And I have been in contracting for longer than I would like to say, but it's been over, let's say, 27, 28 years. I started off in contracting as a contracting officer, and then transitioned into the small business realm for the last 6 years. Part of what I do is introduce businesses to the procurement process at NASA. It is, and just like Jane said, it can be complicated, it can be exhausting, but I encourage small businesses to stay with trying to obtain a contract and give them information about the acquisitions that are available, not only at NASA Glenn Research Center, but at NASA in general. And so I'll give you more information as we go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eunice. Mr. Griffin.
All right, Sean, it seemed like my phone wanted to ring just as soon as you called me, but yeah, once again, I'm Tony Griffin, and I am retired from the Defense Supply Center Columbus, worked with their small business office for many years, as well as the DOD mall, and currently working with the Ohio University PTAC. So for many years, I've been involved in supporting small businesses and small business programs, specifically in socioeconomic areas. But I guess I've looked at numbers of capability statements, so hopefully I can offer you some assistance today. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. To kind of kick things off, we'll just kind of leave it generic as we kind of open up the questions. What do you look for? And I'm going to say this, Tony, I know you're no longer in that capacity, but I'm speaking as if, you know, when you were working. What do you look for when someone sends their capability statement and they're looking to bid on an upcoming project, a solicitation? What are some of the key components? I know Jane just went over everything that companies need to put into their capability statement, And then I'll mix it up, but we'll go ahead and I'll let, looks like Tony is ready to answer. So I was going to say Dave, but Tony's ready to give his answer. So I'm gonna let him go first. What are some of the things that you really look for that are important when a company's bidding on something?
I can tell you that the primary driver to me on a capability statement is fundamentally your past performance. And what I mean, reason I say that is that it does not have to necessarily be government performance or related to the exact things that we do, but the real question I have in terms of examining your past performances, number one, is the information that you're providing in past performance relevant to what it is, what kind of work or the statement of work that we've identified, does it in fact address that? The other thing is the amount of past performance. How long have you been doing what it is that you're presenting yourself as? And is there a way for me to validate that? Do you have contact information or follow-up people, whether it's a contract number or a purchase order number? What would I use to access information about you actually performing this work and whether or not you had satisfied customers or clients as a result of that? So I really do zero in on past performance information.
All right, wonderful. And those, I'm just going to play devil's advocate for some of you. If you're new to government contracting, past performance is just your work history. If you've done something before, who did you do it with? When did you do it? So that's what we mean by past performance. Thank you, Tony. Eunice,
and one thing I would like to add to that is that I want the most current information. If you tell me you've done something 20 years ago, that may not be of particular benefit to you. Okay.
Yeah. So listen, those current clients or customers. That was going to be my second kind of follow up to this. Thank you. Great information, Tony. Eunice, you want to chime in?
Sure. When I'm looking at the capability statement, I think one of the things that Jane had mentioned about how how it should be sectioned off is really important, because your capability statement is your resume. And I always say, if you had your capability statements and it should blow out of your hand and fall out into the street, if someone would pick it up, what's that information on there? Would I be able to contact you? I have seen capability statements without contact information or that generic contract, and it's that, just like you're saying before, it just goes in a circular file. But one of the things, my role is a little bit different, but I'm looking for the capability statement to be related to the work that we're doing at NASA and NASA Glenn Research Center. So it's important to have the NAICS codes. And another thing is, like Jane said, your socioeconomic category is icing on the cake. Can you do the job? And that should be primary. That should be in that first little section there about what you do and explaining your company. And then that way, that information that is on your capability statement, then we can tie that in to what you're looking for, because she is so correct, is that's one of the things that I ask for is your capability statement. And I have had people call and, contact me and say, hey, I would like to do business with NASA, but I'd say, do you have a capability statement? And they don't. So it's really important to have that capability statement ready. Don't have, everything but the kitchen sink in that capability statement. Make sure it's directed to, like, if you specifically within NASA, each center has their own work missions that they do. So did you do your homework? And your capability statement should be focused to the agency that you are marketing to. So so just be cognizant of that when you get in contact with your small business professional.
All right, wonderful. So you're looking for not only the past performance per se, but a targeted, specific, related core competencies to NASA, to that specific project that's coming up, or that specific center where the project is. So that's what you're looking for. I think that's really important. Thank you. Great answer. Dave.
Yes, ma'am. I would say that like submitting something to DLA Land and Maritime, we have contracting people, we have administrative people, we have tech quality people. You're gonna have to, your statement should be written in such a way that everyone understands it. So if you're speaking in very technical lingo and that goes to a contracting person, best case, they're gonna have to send that to somebody else to get it translated. So I always use like the analogy that's been used to how I was taught was explain it like you're trying to tell your mom what you do. You know, even though your mom's in a totally different non-technical field, you know, and my mother was a nurse. So I'm like, she knows nothing about manufacturing. So if I explain something to her so she understands it, then I know that everyone would understand it that would read my document or look at it. And pictures are phenomenal for what I do. Sample parts. It doesn't have to be every product you make, but a dispersion of a good sampling of the different methods and processes that you would perform to make a certain project or product, excuse me.
All right, wonderful. So if it's something at DLA, you wanted to be specific, and if it was technical, have it in language, layman's terms, so
Correct.
that everyone could understand it, and also having some pictures to kind of go along with that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Concentricity and true position. People aren't going to know what that, majority of people won't know what that means.
Awesome. All right, thank you. Tony had mentioned something about past performance, and I wanted to kind of circle back to that. What if you were looking at a capability statement and the answers that you just provided as far as what you're looking for, and it looked like it was specific, related to your agency, the language was understandable, but the past performance was a little dated? So what would you recommend as far as, okay, they've done the work, but let's just say it was 15 years ago. So how important is it, and we'll mix it up, Dave, we'll allow you to go first. How important is it for them to not only have that language, but for that to be relevant and for it to be updated? Is that important to your agency, or it doesn't really matter?
Yeah, I would agree with Tony. He was spot on with that. You know, what you did 15 years ago to what you can do today, could be completely different. The equipment would be 15 years old now, possibly. Those people that manage it was gone, or maybe your company got bought out and some sections got split up and sold off, or who knows? If you're not currently producing that part, I go back when I research a company. If they're a government contractor already, I'll look at the last 3 years.
Last 3 years. Okay.
And that's not a rule. That's kind of what I do to hold somebody accountable. Like if they produced this in the last 3 years, I know sometimes it can be competitive and maybe you're bidding on contracts and not quite getting the ones you want yet. So I look at last 3 years of quality issues. So if you had something 5 years ago, but you went 3 years and supplied all these contracts with no quality issues, I don't care what happened 5 years ago. And that goes both ways though. I don't care what you could produce 5 years ago. I care about what you can produce now. So I 100% agree with what Tony said.
Awesome. And I think this is an important point, and I want to say this before we allow Eunice, is that you want to find out and maybe meet with the small business office or someone from that agency to see what they're specifically looking for. Like Dave said, he's looking for the last 3 years. If it's beyond that, 5 years, maybe a little bit too long. So make sure that you reach out to that agency to find out what they're looking for. Eunice,
I wouldn't hold a negative mark against you outside of 3 years either.
Okay.
So that's always for me to them and them to me. So.
Okay. Eunice, past performance, what is too outdated? What is kind of a window of time that you kind of look for from a small business?
Okay, so within NASA, it depends on what is specified within that request for proposal. So sometimes the request for proposals will say not more than 3 years, but most of the time we'll go 3 to 5 years of past performance when we're looking at in your application for, or your proposal for any type of acquisition.
Okay. We'll let Tony go, and I do see a question that just came in. I'll get that. Tony, what do you recommend as far as the past performance, and what range of years?
Based on what's been said, is I agree with both individuals. Is that again, it's very relevant that whatever it is that's being requested is that you're currently involved, or there's reasonable that you're recently current But if you're too far away from technology change, equipment change, maintaining a sharp edge with respect to the nature of the business that you're attempting to perform is a very important quality to have in past performance. Once again, I will say it doesn't necessarily have to be with the government, but I always think of building a house, whether you're building it for the government or for the private sector, it fundamentally requires the same skills and expertise. So the question is, are you still in that channel, or do you still have the capabilities and what is required to perform the task? And that's what I'm evaluating.
Okay, I like that. So the capability, the skill set to perform the task, the project, do you have it? And it doesn't, I think that's important because I've seen that too, doesn't have to be with the government. It could be in private sector, public sector, but as long as they have that capability. This is a great question. I'll go ahead and pose this, and we'll start with Eunice. How do, because we talk about, Eunice, you mentioned you want something that's specific to maybe that center at NASA or that specific division within NASA. So how do companies research which agencies are in most need of their services? So how would a small business find out what upcoming opportunities are available at your agency? How would they do that research?
Okay, so it's really easy. We have the good thing about it is we have several ways for you to engage with NASA. So first of all, NASA has its a website. So just like Jane was saying, if you Google NASA, Glenn Research Center, you'll see the information that comes up, and then all of the centers have how to do business with that center. You click on that. And if you click on that, I believe that our link will also take you to the Office of Small Business Programs. So the Office of Small Business Programs has a link, and there is there is so much information on that particular website on how to do business with the agency, how to do business with each of the centers. There is a learning series. There's all kinds of things on there. The best thing to do, though, is to get in contact with your small business specialist, because the small business specialist will have an idea of what is going on at their agency, and if they don't have something within your capability, then they can refer you to someone who does. And then for me, specifically, you can also, I think Jane also mentioned those forecasts. Most agencies have a forecast, and so we do have an acquisition forecast. Pull up that acquisition forecast. It could be our acquisition forecast can be sorted in all different. It's in a Excel format, and it can be sorted by the center, by the description of the acquisition, by NAICS codes, and then also the contact information for each of those projects are there. But don't just limit it to that, because most of the time those forecasts are just a tool, and it's a snapshot of what's going on. At Glenn Research Center, our acquisitions are very dynamic. There's things going on all the time. And then as we get toward the third and the fourth quarter, it's even more active for our acquisitions and availability, what we do. So I do want to explain a little bit, though, because each of the agencies, for most of our contracts, are very large and long lead type contracts. We do have a center called the NASA Shared Services Center. They do most of our short-term acquisitions. So that's why it's very important to get in contact with your small business professional, so they can guide you to the right
Okay, great. And just so everyone knows, those forecasts are basically just what that agency does, is forecast or predict what they're looking to purchase, what projects they're looking to put out for that particular fiscal year. And not just federal agencies have them, but also the state of Ohio does have forecasts as well.
Shonda, I have to say our forecast is updated twice a year. It's in spring and the fall of every year. So around April, around this time, it's updated for each. And so it's a snapshot of what the center will be doing.
And do you know quickly where someone could find, like, do you know if they went to your website, do they go to the small business? You know, is there a link for small business, and then under small business, there's a link to the forecast, or how could they find that?
Correct. If you go to the, and I'll put it in the chat.
Okay,
You go
great.
to that link, go to the link, and then it'll open up, and there's you can either see it across the banner at the top or on the side. It'll have a link to the acquisition forecast.
All right, wonderful. So their agency does the forecast and they update it twice a year. That's wonderful. Dave, do you want to chime in on how companies will do research for your agency to find out what's coming up?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Probably the best thing to do is go to our DIB system, the DLA Internet Bid Board system. That has every open solicitation for the Defense Logistics Agency on there. And there's screening tools where you can put in keywords. So if you make support brackets, or if you make shafts, or you make metal seals or whatever, hubs, you can type those keywords in and search, and it'll bring up any solicitations for those keywords. We can help you also, because a lot of times the DoD language does not transfer directly to, private industry language. So something our office does is help you navigate the DIB system, because it's pretty big. So we can help you learn how to filter that and screen it for your company specifics. So it makes it easier for you to just go in and look every day, or once a week, once a month, whatever you want to do. That's the one thing. The other one I would suggest is on the small business website, we have a no bid solicitation list that gets updated. So what happens if no one bids on something in our DIB system? Typically a bid now gets regenerated, and that part goes to the no bid solicitation list. And it's got all kinds of products on it, and it can be exported into an Excel spreadsheet. And then you can filter it for, your federal stock class you like, by name, nomenclature, whatever. And I know, though, I haven't looked at it this month. The last month, I think there was like $100 million in contracts on the no bid list, and typically should have a solicitation open in DIBS. And typically, if you see stuff on there you can make, there's a big chance you're not going to have any competition, because no one already bid on it once. So I always tell people to please look at that. And some of it, it's not going to be attractive on price or quantity. But you can also come back to us and say, listen, I can't make just 5, but I can make you 100, at this price. And that's something our buyers can deal with, how bad we need the parts and that kind of stuff. So just don't write it off if you see, that quantity is too low. Please let us know. Like, I can make that part, but I need to make it this many, or I'm going to charge you this much for that.
Awesome, wonderful. Can you, like Eunice, Dave, would you be able to put in the chat the link to DIBS and that no bid? You mentioned something, or at least the link to the DIBS bid board.
Yeah, I can do that. I can send it out to somebody. I'm on my phone on this.
Oh,
right now.
okay, no worries. Jane, I'm gonna see if Jane, I'm gonna put Jane to task. Jane, can you put the link to the DIBS bid board in the chat? And for those of you, if you look in the chat, you can click on it and it'll take you to that.
Okay.
Okay, no worries. And you can copy and paste it. Tony, you want to add along to that for any agency, or you're on mute?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Not really. I guess my first thought is probably what people are going to need to know as a follow-up. DIBS is a great place to go, but sometimes you need to understand how to best use that site. So we're planning to do a webinar on DIBS, and that might be helpful. But then that's all part of this. Okay, having the capability statement of presenting it to an organization, how best to do that. So I just bring that up because we will be doing a webinar training on DIBS, both me and Vicki Hawthorne.
Okay, wonderful. Well, along those lines then, how important is it for small businesses not only doing research to find out what opportunities are there, but in some instances like DLA maybe, or with Eunice, is there something specific that somebody has to do to sign up to become a vendor, to do business with NASA? Is there specific training? I know DLA has the TKOs. So if we'll start with Tony, Tony already said that they're going to be doing training on DIBs, which will be essential to know how to bid on that. But Dave, if you want to talk about the TKOs, so that how important is it for a small business to really learn how to do business, not just with every federal agency, but specifically with DLA? Is there something specific that they need to do to get prepared?
Oh yeah, so our TKOs, and I can send, if Jane doesn't have a link on how to, if you guys don't have how to register for those, I can send that to her right now, because I just pulled it up. It's training, knowledge, and opportunities. They come out frequently, and we do 1 hour ones. We do two day ones. They're like 6 hour sessions per day. And I think that, and it walks through the process of, about getting the cage code, getting your joint certificate, JCP certification, so you can access text data or tech data and in the C folders, and it goes through all that stuff. And other than the outline of how to do the process and what you need to do, it's very beneficial because you get contact points for every one of those processes, because they bring in subject matter experts that speak basically on each topic. They put out their name, their email, their phone numbers, and basically they volunteer to take part in this, and they're typically very responsive people to businesses that reach out with questions. So I'd say the contact list is invaluable to sit through that 2-day TKO, because there's always going to be some kind of issue. You're going to have a question: why didn't I get this contract? Why am I not getting paid? How do I ship? And it has, how do I package? And all these people you'll get contact information for in your TKO. Then you can just bypass the small business office and go straight to the source. Because that's what if you have that kind of question, we typically play a liaison role and get you to that person. So,
all right, great information to go along with getting your capability statement prepared, is knowing how to do business with that specific agency. So Eunice, does NASA, Glenn, or NASA have something specific for vendors on how they need to do business with you before they present their capability statement?
Yes. The one thing I would refer again is to the Office of Small Business Programs website, because we do have information on how to do business with NASA. There's also a refer you to the NASA vendor database, and our NASA vendor database are for vendors who want to do business with Glenn. There are also, I'm not Glenn, but with NASA specifically. And it's an opportunity for you to upload your capability statement. You can, and it's for small and large vendors. And that platform, the contracting officers and other businesses that are interested in doing business with NASA, and then it also is a network, kind of a network opportunity, obviously a market research opportunity for businesses are on that use that database as well. So if you were looking for to bid on a particular acquisition, and you may want to team with another business, you can actually search on that database and see if there's someone in your area, because it could be sorted geographically if you have a geographic area that you want to search with. So I typically do that, just to let you know that at NASA, we assume that you have everything. Any type of certifications, there's not a specific requirement for your certifications. All of that is actually, the information is actually put in your request for proposal, or if it's a request for quote, that it'll be in there. So we're assuming that you have your cage code, you have your certifications that are necessary to bid on a particular procurement.
All right, wonderful, thank you. I'm gonna shift, kind of going back to all three of you have several years of experience in looking at multiple capability statements. And I think Eunice and Tony may have the longest. So I know you've looked at probably thousands of capability statements, Dave, and you are used to maybe specifically what you're looking for a solicitation or upcoming project. With that said, if you received several capability statements for a requirement or a solicitation, and let's just say there were 3 or 4 that really stood out, and it looked like, okay, out of these 3 or 4 or 5, I think these small businesses could really do this particular work for this project. how would you eliminate, or what's your process of elimination to kind of narrow down to that one capability statement for that small business that you think would be the best provider, the best small business to offer the service that your agency is looking for? What are the differentiators or the criteria that you start to look for to help you distinguish for that one small business? So if you had multiple capability statements and they're just like, all of them look really good, what are some of the things that you start to do to eliminate, to kind of narrow down to like one or two? And we'll start with Tony.
That's kind of a challenging question, because frankly, what I'm going to look at in my evaluation criteria, number one, I had mentioned past performance, but price is always relevant. But we talked today about best practices. So I'm going to look at number one, the pricing for the product or the service, and what am I getting? Are they meeting how well are they meeting my needs? What kinds of equipment do they have in their shop? Are this relevant to current technology? So I'm evaluating several factors, and that's coming together in my thinking as to the best selection or my recommendation to the best selection. So it's not, for example, if you tell me you got a dual axis processing machine and that produce a better widgets or cleaner widgets, or it does faster services, if those things are relevant to my needs, then they're getting the higher points in terms of the evaluation. So it's a group of things that's going to impact my decision as to who I would select.
Well, let's just say it came down to two and they were neck and neck. What are the final, that's what I'm trying to get at. What are the final things that you would start to look at to kind of narrow down to eliminate one from the other?
If it came down to two, and there's other factors that come up. For example, let's say that our organization or our agency has a hub zone goal or woman-owned small business goal, or we're trying to deal with some socioeconomic achievements on our end. I'm going to look at that. If this is a hub zone and the other company is not a hub zone, I'm going to, and everything is equal here, I'm going to use that weight associated with the hub zone and say, well, if we address the hub zone, we're dealing with two issues. One, we're improving the hub zone category. At the same time, we've got a firm here who can produce what we need. So if it's woman-owned again, or another category of socioeconomic objective that we have, I'm going to consider that in the evaluation criteria.
Okay, wonderful. So if it's kind of neck and neck and two companies seem to have kind of equal capabilities, past performance, then you may start to look at those certifications. Again, they're not leading with them, but they could be an extra added tool that could give them additional points or credit that you would use that maybe will put them ahead.
Well, yes, because it helped me address more than one goal.
Okay, wonderful. I think that's a great answer. Dave.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Tony said about price, typically what happens in our office is if they need a small business to supply a part because it's a set aside for a socioeconomic program, I try to give them 4 to 5 different companies. And that goes to contracting. They're gonna reach out to those companies, and then it's basically going to be price driven. Except for, I would say, a lot of our solicitations, or some of our solicitations, will have higher level quality requirement in them, and a lot of people don't comment on that. They overlook that in their capabilities, and I don't think we've touched on that. So if you're ISO compliant, a lot of times that meets our need of higher level quality. I understand ISO certifications are extremely expensive. Small businesses don't spend that money, and I understand that. You can be compliant without being certified. If you can back that up with your quality manual and you do your own internal documentation and traceability and audits, you can be like I said, ISO compliant, and that could set you different. That could make the difference between getting an award and not.
All right, so that goes back to speaking with Jane, talked about the differentiator section. So you may be compliant, but having that ISO certification, yes, it may be expensive, but that could be a differentiating factor that could set your company apart from another manufacturing company. So that may be something that you will look for as a good quality capability that a company has.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
All right, wonderful. And so that definitely, you will look for that on their capability statement for them to have that. That's something that you kind of look for as your process of looking for information, core competencies, differentiators. You look for that in the higher quality projects.
Yeah, for the stuff that the solicitation dictates, so the contract's going to require this higher level quality system. Yeah, I definitely look for that. But like I said, you can be compliant and not be certified, which a lot of times meets our needs.
Okay, great point. Eunice, if you had 2 firms or 3 or 4 that they just all seem to be about the same, what are some of the things that you start to look for to differentiate or kind of narrow down process of elimination to get to 1 or 2?
You know what, Shonda, I can't, that's not my area of expertise, but I can't tell
Okay.
you what happens with
Okay.
with NASA in our process. What we do is we go out with the sources sought. Jane touched on it briefly, and with that sources sought, when you're looking at those procurements, you actually should respond to the sources sought with the information that's requested
Right.
by that requiring organization. And the thing that's important is if you can do parts of the statement of work, then you should say that I can do these parts of the statement of work, because a lot of times that helps the contracting officer and their technical team form how they're going to actually go out with the solicitation. So I don't actually evaluate those capability statements, but I do want to let you know that the capability statements would not be what you would respond to a sources sought with. You would actually respond to the sources sought, and then the technical team gets the information and they actually do an evaluation or risk analysis as they're looking at the and making sure that the company is capable to perform the work. So there's a whole system that goes along with that when we're doing our procurements at Glenn Research Center. So we wouldn't do comparison between different vendors.
Okay, thank you. No, that's good. And just for those of you that may not know, sources sought is essentially an agency's method to do market research to see, are there small businesses that are out in the field that could perform a specific solicitation or a project that the agency may be looking to put out down the road. So they will put out a sources sought, they will post it on sam.gov, and then they will ask for small businesses to respond and whatever that they're looking for. So that's what Eunice was referring to. Thank you for that information. Now, another question, if you were looking at capability statements for a specific solicitation or project, and even though it looks like the company does have great past performance, but they may be missing something. And back to Eunice's point, it's not specific or targeted for that solicitation, but working in a small business office, you may know of another project or another solicitation that this capability statement may be a good fit for. Has that ever happened to you? And maybe have you ever reached out and maybe they were, let's just say, responding to project X, Y, and Z, but it doesn't look like they have the core competencies or the past performance for project X, Y, Z, but they have the past performance and the capabilities, core competencies for project ABC. Would you reach out to that firm and say, hey, I know you're responding to this, it doesn't look like you have the past performance and capabilities for this, but you have it for this other project. Has that ever happened to you? Have you reached out to the firm? Has something like that ever happened to you? And we'll start with, I just went with Eunice. We'll go back to Eunice.
Unfortunately, no, because I'm not the one to actually do the evaluation.
Okay.
It would actually be the contracting officer.
Okay, but have you ever worked with a firm that maybe they're interested in something and maybe they're talking to you? And so,
yeah, so
what type of...
Correct. So what I use the capability statement for is exactly what you said, is that if they're looking to let's suppose they have their capability is in IT services, and we don't currently have an opportunity there, but there might be something else that they might qualify for. I would refer them to either the well, what I actually do is end up doing research. Let's see if they can. Oh, I do want to also say, and I apologize that thought
Oh,
just stopped in my head, is that a lot of times businesses are really focused on doing business with a particular governmental agency, but don't discount doing business with the contractors that already have contracts on the center or at the agency, because many times they are looking for vendors. So it might be, you might just be disappointed. It's like, man, I can't get a direct contract with NASA, but we do a lot of subcontracting, a lot. And so for instance,
great
with
point.
our large, most of the time, small businesses will do business with small businesses, but we do have many large businesses that actually provide support for our mission. So if we have a company that is on, and you see that that company is already has a contract at the center, you can contact the small business specialist. They can get you in contact with that program manager, and they can get you in contact with them, and they can let you know, because I have had those issues, I mean, not issues, but opportunities where I've been able to guide a small business to the contractor, and then the contractor will be able to do business with them in supporting NASA and NASA Glenn.
All right, wonderful. Tony.
As I was listening to Eunice, my experience has been similar, is that sometimes I may refer them to an active contractor who may be able to utilize their services. But I guess the point to be made is that the capability statement is not just for the federal agencies or the government agency per se, but these contractors will ask me for other vendors, small business vendors, capability statement. So if I think one would be a benefit in a given area, I will pass their capability statement on.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Dave, did you want to?
Yes, ma'am. Typically, the only experience I've had with that is like hard to source items. Like right now, we're working on something called fitted covers, we call them, and they're basically the soft top canvas camouflage covers on troop carrier and vehicles, you know, Jeeps, Humvees, that kind of stuff. So we've reached out to people that make weapons covers or helicopter protective sheets that's made out of a different material, but they're used to stitching and cutting fabric. So we've been reaching out to them, asking if they're willing to change their process to use canvas to make these kind of things. But other than that, typically, no, I help companies find solicitations to DIBS. They don't come to me with a solicitation they're already interested in.
Okay, thank you. I want to, this last 20 minutes, because I said the panel will serve as kind of twofold, what you kind of look for in capability statements from small businesses, and then also to get companies prepared for the upcoming matchmaker in July. Just wanted to see what are some best practices or tips or tools or keys that you would recommend that small businesses can start doing to prepare themselves. If they don't have a capability statement, putting it together. If they do have one, you know, brushing it up. Now that we're coming out of COVID, maybe there could be some best practices that you want to recommend or some tips. So Eunice, it looked like you were on mute and you took yourself off mute like you were ready to respond.
I did.
can
I'm ready
tell
because
you were going in.
I enjoy interacting with small businesses, and I'm so happy now that that we'll be able to participate in events, and hopefully I'll be able to support you in this outreach event. But it's so very important to be prepared when you go to these events, because it's a very unique opportunity, because most of the time you're not going to see these same professionals in the same space. So it's very important to have that capability statement ready to go. And please, 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 I don't even know how many pleases I'm gonna put on here, but please take advantage of the PTACs, please, because Jane and Jill and the SBA, they all have these opportunities because you're talking to people like me. And by the time you get to me, you should already have it. You should already have it together. Already should have your capability statement together. And also the PTACs will provide sometimes they'll do a workshop, or you can do the one-on-one on what to know before you go. What do you want to do? Because basically it's an elevator speech, and you have maybe about 2 or 3 minutes to talk to your small business specialist or small business professional about what you can do. And then also you want to take advantage of that networking opportunity, not only just with the agencies, but with people that do the same thing you do. I always say take advantage of any type of outreach event, because it gives you a chance to interact with the small business professional. And I'll say right quick that when we have, we'll be having, NASA will be starting to have more of those. Most of the time, the small business specialists are, well, all of our small business specialists are from all over the country. So we're in the same space, and there's very unusual, maybe about 2 or 3 times a year where we're in the same space. So you have to be ready to talk about what you want to do. If you know NASA Glenn Research Center is working on, they have a solicitation out for their fab shop, be able to tell me that you have that opportunity. I have this opportunity is out there. What do I need to do? So just take advantage of that. And the capability statement is your first, I guess that's the first intro to that small business professional and what they actually are looking for when they are going to introduce you to the to other business. And it's not only other businesses, but your capability statement also goes to our technical folks, because I'll get capability statements and I'll say, hey, you know what? I think that will go well with to our quality division. And so, I mean, if you have a capability statement, it can go to your technical person and they'll look to see if they have something available as well. So please that use your PTACs to have your capability statement developed and processed.
Yes, thank you. And Eunice kind of gave a little snippet. For those of you that don't know, with the matchmaker, essentially when you come to the matchmaker, it'll be an open room with a table of agency representatives. You'll be on one side, and then just like a dating matchmaker service, you'll have about 5 to 7 minutes to basically pitch your capability statement to that government professional. And then after doing that, they may ask questions, there may be a little bit of interaction, and then there'll be a little bell that will ring. So getting you prepared for that, as Jill said, we will be having upcoming mock matchmaker sessions where it'll be just like this, where virtually we'll have 3 or 4 different government representatives, small business professionals you'll be able to pitch your capability statement to, and then we'll give you feedback. So that is coming up, and we'll send out the dates to that. So thank you, Eunice. Tony, and then we'll go to Dave. What, as far as best practices as companies are preparing and we're gearing up for the matchmaker, what would you offer or provide?
I would sort of echo what Eunice was saying. Due diligence is very important. In other words, it's your preparation. The better prepared you are, the smoother it's going to go for you in terms of information and getting the kinds of things you need to know about a given project or solicitation opportunity. So if you've done your research, you've been on, say, sam.gov reviewing contracting opportunities, if you've maybe had a chance to look at the federal data procurement system information associated with certain given kinds of products or services, you know what agency or organization purchased those services, you got an idea who you need to be talking to. At the same time, you should have an idea of how to prepare to talk, because you're going to have a very short time to try to market yourself to them. And the idea is, okay, then if that is the case, be prepared. So again, I echo the things that Eunice had laid out there.
All right, wonderful. Dave.
Yeah, I too am gonna reiterate what Eunice said. Use your PTACs, because if you come and you meet myself or one of my associates at a matchmaking event and you don't have your cage code or you don't have your JCP certification, we're going to send you to the PTAC anyway, and it's kind of a waste of time because there's nothing we can do for you if you don't have. Use your PTAC, use our TKOs, reach out, because it's really, for us, we can't do anything help you if you don't have those things set up, and you have to do that. We can't do it for you. So,
all right, wonderful. So if you don't know who your PTAC counselor is, or if you're not a client, this is a little tag or plug. Go and register to get signed up with PTAC to work with a PTAC counselor to get prepared, to get your capability statement created, or to get it revised or updated, refreshed. What are some do's and don'ts? Thank you, Jane, for typing in the PTAC website. I know you have looked at hundreds, probably maybe thousands of capability statements and going to these matchmaking events, networking events. What are some of your just kind of pet peeves, or what are some things, do's and don'ts, that you would recommend as companies are getting prepared, especially now that things are opening up? We're resurfacing after 2 years with COVID. What are some do's or don'ts that you would specifically say to small businesses that they should do as they're preparing for these matchmaking and networking events? Tony.
Well, I talked about being prepared, but they need to, again, be familiar with certain things. For example, the DUNS number. One thing when you guys were talking about the DUNS number, it's not that the DUNS number is not still current. It is not still current with the federal government. So
right.
The client need to know now. We have a lot of literature that talk about your DUNS number, that has become irrelevant with the federal government. So now it's going to be your UEI, unique entity identifier. So again, just understanding how to approach is relevant, but that means understand what goes on in the current process. We talked about DIBS, for example. You can't place a quote on DIBS unless you're registered in DIBS. What does it mean? So there's some things that you need to research. And so I can't overstate this. You need to do your research on the front end so you'll have a sense of what to do.
All right, research. All right, wonderful. Do's and don'ts, Dave, your recommendations.
Yeah, so just to make sure everyone understands what DLA, what we do at Land and Maritime or any DLA detachment, we buy parts for the military that the military basically told us to buy. If you come to us, like we had a lot of this at our supplier conference, people want to sell us a part that's not a national stock number. Or we got this product that's gonna be great, here, you want to buy this. That's not what we do. So you'd be wasting your time once again if you go to a matchmaking event for DLA trying to sell a product that's not currently procured by the military. Because we tell them, hey, we found this part, we're buying it, you use it. That's not the way our process works. So I would come trying to sell a product. We do have ways to create an NSN for a new product, but that's outside of DLA, and I can put you in touch with those people. But at our events, that we can't help you do that other than refer you to somewhere else.
Awesome. So that goes back to the research. So what is that agency? It's not just about, okay, I want to meet with Dave and I want to sit in front of him. We have these wonderful products. But if that agency is not buying what you're selling, then it is essentially a waste of time. Eunice, thank you, Dave. Eunice, do's and don'ts.
Yes, I'm going to piggyback on Tony. When they say do your homework or do your research, that's exactly what they mean. Know who you're marketing to. When you're marketing to NASA or a huge agency like DOD, they buy all kinds of different things. So know that you wouldn't go to DLA to sell whatever it is, like custodial services. So that's one of the things that I always recommend. I had one time, I had someone, don't bring props. I mean, you might have the most wonderful widgets around, but don't bring those with you. Don't bring
Oh,
them. And the other thing is don't, I think Jane mentioned about complaining. In most small businesses, they don't complain, but
oh,
I had one small business say, oh my gosh, you know, it just takes so much time to do she was talking about the hub zone and the hub zone process. And I did tell her, I said, that is the only way. That's the only way that we can actually do set aside. So if you do not want to respond to the sources sought, or you don't want to do that, then maybe this is not the area that you should be in. So if it's something that you really don't want to do, I mean, and it's fine, that's fine. Then don't complain about it to the person that you want to do business with. The thing that I would say to do is to make sure that you know what Glenn Research does. You know that you can go on the websites and do research. There's FOIA information, all kind of information. So when you come ready, you're like, you know what? I know NASA Glenn is getting ready to do a facilities contract, and so I know that it's here in the process. But it's so important to start really early in the process. That's why it's so important for you to do your homework, because we're long lead type, and so we start 18 to 24 months before the end of the contract. So that's why it's so important to talk to us and find out what's going on. And you want to talk to us before the RFP comes out, because if you wait till that draft RFP goes out or the RFP goes out, you're way too late, way too late. So that's why it's important for you to get familiarized yourself with the agency that you're dealing with, and talk to that small business professional before you get ready to bid on a particular or provide a proposal for a particular acquisition.
awesome. I think that, Eunice, that recommendation could be for any agency, for all small businesses as they're getting prepared. Research, start early, get ahead of a solicitation. As she said, 18 to 24 months before a contract actually comes out. So that research and looking at those forecasts, doing your research on that agency and what they buy, so that you know ahead of time, is going to be essential. When she talked about the complaining, I listened to someone and they said, hey, if you complain, you'll remain. So if you complain to, you go to the matchmakers and, oh, it was so hard to do this and that. Last person I met with, if you complain, you'll continue to remain where you are, not have any contracts. So just, you want to leave that at home. And as Jane mentioned, as we have like about 5 more minutes, if you have questions, you can type them in the chat. I know as we're getting down, I may even allow you to unmute yourself. But just kind of last key takeaway points or key tips that you want to leave with small businesses. I'll allow each of you to share like 2 minutes, 1 minute, and then we'll wrap up, see if there are any other questions, and then we'll give comments on our next workshop next month. But just your last kind of key tips, suggestions that you want to leave with small businesses as they're getting ready to create their capability statements, refresh them, and get ready to go to these matchmaking events and networking events as we are resurfacing out of COVID. So Dave, what would be the key takeaway things that you want to recommend to small businesses?
I mean, I would say that, we are here to help. There's a whole office of my people. I want to say there's maybe 12 of us, but we have specialists from contract, administrative, the different socioeconomic programs. I'm the tech quality guy. If you have questions or issues, we have the P-Tax, and it's a free service. Like, we are paid to help small businesses get DLA contracts. So I encourage you, please reach out. Everyone I work with, I've been there a year, is very responsive. We set up calls every day. I'm in some kind of meeting with some small business. We are absolutely here to help, and we want you to be successful. So you got to let us know when you need us, or when you need help, or if you have questions, reach out to either our office or the P-Tax to get what you need. Don't wait around or guess.
Wonderful. We are here to help. I love that. Love that. And I sincerely do believe that. And us working with these agencies, they really do want to assist in whatever way that they are able to assist you as a small business to get ready to help you. So thank you, Dave. And again, continually you here working with your PTAC, working with your PTAC. Tony, what are some takeaway key points that you want to leave with small businesses as they get ready and as they're preparing their capability statements?
I recommend that they use their technology, Google the different websites of these different agencies. And again, the research part of that is relatively easy if you get involved with the technology, the review of the different, what do they buy? Do they buy the kinds of things that I produce or the services that I provide? At the same time, consider what your own website look like, because if you contact someone and give them some basic information and they come back to your website should have your capability statement and other information that would entice them to do business with you, or at least consider you. So it works two ways. One, you make them aware of you, but two, when they check on you or do their validation, it should be relatively clear and easy. So that's what I mean by being prepared. Be prepared across the board.
I love that. Making sure your website is updated. You know, you may be updating your capability statement, updating your website, making sure it's current. And then as Tony said, you can put a link on your website to, you can upload your capability statement so that if people go there, they can easily download it. Great feedback, Tony. Eunice, what parting tips and words of encouragement, suggestions would you give small businesses as they're preparing their capability statements and getting ready for the networking matchmaking events?
I would say just take advantage of the free services, especially that PTAC is a free services of these organizations, because they are really helpful. The preparation is really important. I can't stress that enough as far as doing your homework and making sure that you're ready. And then also, please take advantage of outreach events. Many of these agencies have outreach events. And just because you may be a hub zone, a woman-owned small business, or a veteran-owned small business, go to the event. Because sometimes, do I have to be a woman-owned small business? No, come to the event, because the main thing is small business. Just because it has the socioeconomic category on there, don't worry about that. If you're a service-disabled veteran-owned business and you see a woman-owned small business event, go to that event, because it is so important. Because the main thing you want to do is network with other businesses, and as you're going and developing your small business to do business with other governmental agencies, take advantage of the webinars like this one. Don't sign up for the webinar, then don't show up, because that information is so very important that you will be receiving. Don't depend that it's going to be recorded, and that's okay. So show up to the event if you can, if your time permits to do that. So that's what I would say.
Awesome, wonderful. We may go over just 5 or 7 minutes. So give us, I know it's 12 now or 1, so just give us an additional 5 or 7 minutes. I see another small business professional that's on here. If she will allow me to just kind of put her on the spot, you don't have to turn on your camera, but if you don't mind, Sarah Bell with Right Pat, she may be thinking, I was going to reach out to you. Would you want to chime in to say some additional things as we get ready to close out? We do have another small business professional, wasn't on the panel, but I see she is in as a participant. Sarah, would you want to chime in and just give any recommendations as far as small businesses and what you see as they may be getting ready for the matchmaker, upcoming events, preparing their capability statement? Yeah, she unmuted herself. Sarah, please do share your name and what capacity you serve.
Miss Harris.
I was going to call you
Putting me on the spot,
so when
Miss
I
Harris.
saw you, she always supports her. I love Sarah. So yes.
Well, thank you for giving me an opportunity to chime in. So yes, I'm the small business professional supporting AFRL over at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And let me just say, I loved this. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for putting this on. I was nodding my head a lot. Capability statements are extremely important. I act kind of like a liaison, if you will. I take those, I receive them. I certainly log them on my end. That way, if a contracting shop comes to me and says, hey, I've got this requirement, do you know of anybody? It's kind of like just an Excel spreadsheet, but I can very quickly search by NAICS code. That's extremely important. That's what I look for a lot. Here at Right Pat, we have 4 different mission orgs. And so I really look kind of like, but like you said, are you selling what we're buying? Are your capabilities a fit? And if they are a fit, which mission organization are they the best fit for? Is it sensors? Is it materials manufacturing? And if it's not here at Right Pat, we've got other tech directorates or mission orgs, if you will. Say Rome, New York, we've got information, space vehicles down in Kirtland. And so I look at that and say, hey, it's not a fit here for what we do at Right Pat, but hey, I know somebody. Let me, introduce you and see if we can get you plugged in there. So that's one aspect. I keep them on my end. Second aspect is I will share them sometimes with the contracting folks and say, hey, look, I had a chance to look at this, or I met with this company and I feel like they fit within your mission org. I'd like to send this to you, that in mind, because they're going to build statement and figure out their solicitation strategy. They're going to look and say, yeah, we do have, X amount of small business. Can we go ahead and set this aside? They're going to look, at a further, hey, look, we have this many, and you name associate category, and they're going to say we can further. And so having a statement just gives them a really quick snapshot, point of contact, a place that they can go and reach and say, yeah, these folks look like they could meet our requirement, and they can make those acquisition strategies based on that information. So it's extremely important. We love having those on file. I love the presentation. It was spot on. And then just in terms of the matchmaker events, I've only been privy to the virtual ones. And so the only thing that I think kind of sours those a little bit for me is when folks speak the entire time. I know they're passionate. They've got capabilities. This is their baby, and I respect that. The problem is that I want to help you. So my advice would be make sure that you afford those folks that you're speaking to an opportunity to give you feedback, to give you resources, to give them give us folks like me an opportunity to direct you and get you plugged in and tell you, hey, look, this is where I think you should go, or this might be a helpful resource. So just be mindful of your time when you're giving that elevator speech, so that we also have an opportunity to help you, because that's the end goal. You can tell me all about your capabilities that you want. However, I want to be able to use that and translate it for you into, hopefully a contracting opportunity. So that would be my advice on that. And so again, thank you for putting me on the spot. I appreciate it here. Thank you.
No, thank you for sharing. And I think a great way to kind of wrap up, even though you weren't on the panel, she echoed some of the same things our panelists shared, but I think that's a great, as we kind of close out, when you do share, you're passionate about that, but allowing that small business professional to be able to share also and give you feedback and you receive it. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you to our panelists, Dave Loftman with DLA, Eunice Adams-Sipp with NASA Glenn. She did have to jump off to go to another meeting. Tony Griffith with the OUPTAC, retired federal small business director at DLA. Thank you so much for your time today. This is a monthly series that we put on next month. If somebody can help me out in May, what are we focusing on for our webinars? I don't remember.
We're doing the mock matchmakers. I don't think we have an SBA.
We don't have a training?
tech. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, we're doing 2 mock matchmakers. So information will be forthcoming shortly. We're working on finalizing that, getting a flyer with the dates and everything. You can sign up with that. And then we'll be 2 mock matchmaker sessions in June. So you'll have a chance to, in between now and then, put together your capability statement, work with your PTAC counselor. Then if you're able to sign up for those, you can pitch in front of small business professionals and we can provide you that feedback. And then also starting in June, we will be having webinars leading up to the matchmaker. So we'll start to have 2 webinars a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, leading all the way up to the matchmaker on July 13th and 14th. Look forward to getting that schedule here soon. And if somebody can put in the chat where people can go to register for I believe registration is open for the Ohio Business Matchmaker. And we hope to see you July 13th and 14th. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much again, Sarah, for chiming in. I know I put you on the spot. There's the Ohio Business Matchmaker website. Again, this webinar will be posted on the Matchmaker webinar site. When you go to the site, there's a link at the top for webinars. You should be able to go on there. And then also the OU PTAC site will post this and the slides. You can contact your PTAC counselor for a template if you need that, or if you need assistance. Again, thank you so much for your time, for joining us today. We love doing these. Thank you to our panelists and also to Sarah Bell. Everybody have an amazing day and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shonda.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
You can stop the recording.